The Livens Projector was a simple mortar-like weapon that could throw large drums filled with flammable or toxic chemicals. In the First World War, the Livens Projector became the British Army's standard means of delivering gas attacks, and it remained in its arsenal until the early years of the Second World War. History. The Livens Projector was created by the British Army officer Captain William H. Livens of the Royal Engineers. Livens designed a number of novel weapons, including a large-caliber flamethrower, designed to engulf German trenches in burning oil, that was deployed at the Somme in 1916. One of these weapons was partially excavated in 2010 for an episode of archaeological television program Time Team, having been buried as the tunnel in which it was being built took a direct hit from a German shell. Later, in World War II, he worked on petroleum warfare weapons such as the flame fugaz and various other flame-throwing weapons. Prior to the invention of the Livens Projector, chemical weapons had been delivered either by cloud attacks or chemical-filled shells fired from howitzers. Cloud attacks at first were made by burying gas-filled cylinder tanks just beyond the parapet of the attackers' trenches and then opening valves on the tanks when the wind was right. Later British practice was to bring up flat cars with gas cylinders on a line parallel to the front to be attacked, and open the cylinders without removing them from the rail car. This allowed a useful amount of gas to be released, but there was danger that the wind would change and the gas would drift back over the attacking troops. Chemical shells were much easier to direct at the enemy but could not deliver nearly as much gas as a cylinder tank. Livens was in command of Z Company, the unit charged with developing and using flame and chemical weapons. Flamethrowers and various means of dispensing chemicals had proven frustratingly limited in effect. One day, during an attack on the Somme, Z Company encountered a party of Germans who were well dug in. Grenades did not succeed in shifting them, so Livens improvised a sort of giant Molotov cocktail using two 5-gallon oil drums. When these were thrown into the German positions, they were so effective that Livens' comrade Harry Strange wondered whether it would be better to use containers to carry the flame to the enemy rather than relying on a complex flamethrower. Reflecting on the incident, Livens and Strange considered how a really large shell filled with fuel might be thrown by a mortar. Livens went on to develop a large, simple mortar that could throw a 3-gallon drum of oil which would burst when it landed, spreading burning oil over the target. Livens came to the attention of General Hubert Goff, who was impressed by his ideas and wangled everything that Livens needed for his large projector. On July 25, 1916 at Ovillers-la-Boisselle during the Battle of the Somme, Z Company used 80 projectors when the Australians were due to attack Poitiers. The early versions had a short range and it was necessary to place the projectors 200 yards out in no man's land. The resulting barrage was highly successful in neutralizing the German machine gun posts. Z Company rapidly developed the Livens Projector, increasing its range to 350 yards and eventually an electrically triggered version with a range of 1,300 yards. This version was successfully used at Messines Ridge in June 1917. The Livens Projector was then modified to fire canisters of poison gas rather than oil. This system was tested in secret, at Thiepval in September 1916 and Beaumont Hamel in November. The Livens Projector was able to deliver a high concentration of gas a considerable distance. Each canister delivered as much gas as several chemical warfare artillery shells. Without the need to reload, a barrage could be launched quickly, catching the enemy by surprise. Although each projector could be fired just once during an attack, the weapon was sufficiently inexpensive to be deployed in hundreds or even thousands. The Livens Projector was also used to fire other substances. At one time or another, the drums contained high explosive, oil and cotton waste pellets, thermite, white phosphorus and stinks. Used as giant stink bombs to trick the enemy, stinks were malodorous but harmless substances such as bone oil and amyl acetate used to simulate a poison gas attack, thereby compelling the enemy to put on their cumbersome masks, which reduced the efficiency of German troops, on occasions when gas could not be safely employed. Alternatively, stinks could be used to artificially prolong the scale, discomfort, and duration of genuine gas attacks, i.e. alternating projectiles containing stinks with phosgene, atomsite or chloropicrin. There was even a design for ammunition containing a dozen mils bombs in the manner of a cluster bomb. The Livens Projector remained in the arsenal of the British Army until the early years of the Second World War. Description: the Livens Projector was designed to combine the advantages of gas cylinders and shells by firing a cylinder tank at the enemy. It consisted of a simple metal pipe that was set in a ground at a 45-degree angle. Specifications varied during the war. The early field Improvisations in July 1916 near La Basselle based the barrel on 12-inch diameter, 300 mm, oil drums. The projectile was an oil can. The production model was decided on in December 1916 after further successful field trials on the Somme. It was based on spare 8-inch diameter, 200 mm, oxyacetylene welded tubing. The 8-inch barrel became standard and was first used in number when 2000 fired a salvo in the Battle of Vimy Ridge in April 1917. Barrels were supplied in 3 lengths depending on required range: 2 feet 9 in, 0.84 m, for short range, 3 feet, 0.91 m, for medium range, 4 feet 3 in, 1.30 m, for maximum range. A drum 7.6 in, 190 mm, in diameter and 20 in, 510 mm, long containing 30 pounds, 14 kilograms, of gas was shot out by an electrically initiated charge, giving it a range of about 1500 m, 1600 yd. On impact with the target, a burster charge would disperse the chemical filling over the area. It was also used to project flammable oil, as with 1,500 drums fired before the Battle of Messines in June 1917. Oil was also tried on September 20, 1917 during the Battle of Menin Road with 290 projectors used in support of an attempt to capture Eagle Trench east of Langmark. This included concrete bunkers and machine gun nests, but the drums did not land in the trenches and failed to suppress the German defenders there. Combat use. As a rule, the projectors were sighted out in the open some little way behind the front lines so that digging, aiming, either by direct line of sight or by compass, and wiring up the electrical leads were easier. When camouflaged, the positions would be unknown to the enemy, so that although the enemy was able to recognize the direction of the location by the discharge flash, he would be uncertain of the range. As such, these installations could only be carried out at night. The digging of the narrow trenches did not involve much labor, and later in the war the projectors were only buried to a depth of about a foot, instead of up to their muzzles. The projector was somewhat unreliable. In order to safeguard friendly forces from shorts, an area immediately ahead of the projector battery was cleared of troops before firing. This area allowed for the possibility of drums reaching only 60% of the estimated range and veering 20 degrees from the central line of fire by the wind or from some other cause. The projectors were also inaccurate. It was distinctly laid down as a principle that, owing to the inaccuracy of the weapon, the most suitable targets were areas which were either strongly held or which contained underground shelters in which the occupants were safe against artillery fire. A British training manual of 1940 described it as a simple weapon which does not aspire to great accuracy. Its range is limited to about 1,800 yards. The noise of firing is very loud, and at night is accompanied by a vivid flash. Projectors are the principal armament of CW companies, RE. The projector's unreliability and inaccuracy were more than made up for by the weapon's principal advantages. It was a cheap, simple, and extremely effective method of delivering chemical weapons. Typically, hundreds, or even thousands, of Livens projectors would be fired in unison during an attack in order to saturate the enemy lines with poison gas. This weapon was one which, if the installation had been carried out carefully and camouflaged, was capable not only of flooding the enemy's trenches unexpectedly with a deadly gas a few seconds after notice of its approach had been given by the flash of the discharge, but of establishing such a high concentration of poisonous vapor, especially in the neighborhood where each drum fell, that no respirator could be expected to give adequate protection to its wearer. This mass effect had, of course, not been achieved to any marked extent during the Somme battle, when only a dozen or two makeshift drums were discharged at a time, but now that we were proposing to fire several thousand of them simultaneously in a single operation, the effect might well be expected to be, and in fact was, profound. In a captured German document, dated 27/12/17, an English gas projector bombardment was described as follows: the discharge in sight and sound resembles a violent explosion, volcanic sheets of flame, or the simultaneous occurrence of many gun flashes, thick noise of impact up to 25 seconds after the flash of discharge. The mines, contrary to the manner of discharge, do not all burst exactly simultaneously. The noise resembles that of an exploding dump of hand grenades. Fragmentation is very slight. German equivalent. The Livens projector provided the Germans with inspiration for a similar device, known as the Gaswurfminen. Over 800 of these were used against the Italian army at the Battle of Caporetto. Surviving examples. Several barrels with bases are displayed at Sanctuary Wood Museum, Hill 62, Zillebeke, Belgium. Memorial Museum, Passchendaele in Zonnebeek. Several barrels in the ground at the Yorkshire Trench and Dugout in Ypres. In Flanders Fields Museum in Ypres. Type mortar. Place of origin United Kingdom. Service history. In service 1916–1918. Used by British Empire. United States. Wars World War I. Production history. Designer Captain William Howard Livens, Royal Engineers. Designed 1916. No, built 140,000 projectors. 400,000 bombs. Specifications. Shell gas drum. Caliber 8 inches, 200 mm. Elevation fixed. Traverse fixed. Maximum firing range 1640 yd, 1500 m. Filling phosgene, flammable oil. Filling weight 30 pounds, 14 kilograms. Detonation. Mechanism. Impact.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.